second graders, today we're doing lesson 3, setting and characters. I can identify and describe the setting of my story. I can identify and describe the characters in my story. I can identify the narrator of my story. So you're going to turn to page 6 for this lesson, this graphic organizer. So first we're going to think about the setting of our story. The setting is where the story takes place. So my story is going to take place in the tundra. And because my story is about Arctic foxes, and there's going to be snow, and it will be very cold. So I'm thinking of a few words to describe my setting. And now I need to think a little bit about the characters in my story. So Cinderella is the protagonist. She's the main character in the story. In my story, the Cinderella character is going to be an Arctic fox named Snowball. And he's an Arctic fox. And your Cinderella character could be a boy or a girl. It could be an animal. It's totally up to you. So mine is a male Arctic fox named Snowball. And in my story, instead of a stepmom who's the villain, my story is going to have a stepdad. And his name is going to be James. And he is not kind, he's mean. And in my story, instead of a stepsister, there's going to be a stepbrother named Kevin. He's a stepbrother. And similar to the stepdad, he is also mean. Then in my story, the other stepsister is actually also going to be a stepbrother, but he's really kind, and he's going to be the fairy godmother character. So the fairy godmother in my story is going to be a stepbrother. His name is Oliver, and he is kind. And he's, in the original Cinderella, the fairy godmother helps Cinderella get ready for the ball. And in my story, the stepbrother is going to help Snowball get ready for an ice skating competition instead of the ball. So now I need to think about the prince. And in my story, there's going to be a character named Snowflake, and she is a female Arctic fox. All the characters in my story are Arctic foxes. And she is also going to be an ice skater, and she's going to be a really good ice skater who's at the skating competition. And instead of a father who passed away in the story, there's going to be a mother who married the not kind stepfather, James. Okay, now second graders, I need to think about the narrator. The narrator is who is telling the story. So you could have your story told in first person, which would mean the story is told using I. For example, Cendrillon was told in first person. It's the fairy godmother who's telling the story. So in your story, if the Cinderella was telling the story, or the stepmom or stepsister, if one of these characters was telling the story, your story would be in first person, and that would be your narrator. Now, when your story is told by just an outside person, that's called third person. So in my story, it's just going to be told in third person. It's just an outside person telling the story. Okay, second graders, today I want you to think about your narrator, the characters, and the setting, and I want you to fill out this graphic organizer.